What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. I am Mike. Joining me this week are two voices that might be a little unfamiliar. One has not been here for a while, and that is Kev, and one you've never heard before, and that is Eli. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show. Eli, how's it going, man?
Doing well. Excited to be here. I'm a fairly long time listener, first time uh, appearing. So
Commentator.
um
Yeah. Welcome.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's an honor.
Yeah. Well, let's not go too far here. Um, tell everybody about yourself. How'd you get into the hounds? Like, what qualifies you to come? This is putting a lot of pressure. What qualifies you to come on here and share your opinion with everybody?
I'm
What
certainly not
qualifies
qualified.
me? I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, that's hard to say. I
Tell me about your hounds journey. Yeah.
yeah, I really started in 2015 um because that's when I moved to the city. I'm from the area, but when I was actually that was when I actually lived in the city and had the time free. Before then I was writing for a newspaper, and like every Saturday night I was busy anyway. So I was aware, but I was never free to actually go to a game. My first game was the Miracle on the Mon.
Oh man.
Very first, yeah. So that was pretty wild. And then from there, then I got, you know, I got season tickets from like 2016 on, so got hooked pretty quickly. Definitely around that time, even just getting more into soccer in general. I hadn't watched a ton before then, so several years of trying to just kind of learn and immerse myself in it, and hopefully I can talk
Oh, for sure.
somewhat intelligently about things. But yeah, that's where it began. And then just like, I have a good group of friends that I go to games with that some people I knew already, and a lot of people that I met through the team or through the games. And, always a good
Yeah.
time. So gets me into it. And then obviously, like immediately once I find a new interest like that, which was, 9 years ago now, but I just really try, I kind of get obsessive about like learning more and more about it as much as I can. So it was only like a casual little enjoyable interest for a short time before I really then would leave the game upset if the Hounds lost or things like that. So
Where can people find you in the stands? You said you've been a season ticket holder for a while now. Where do you
yes,
like to
yeah,
sit?
I am in the supporters section, but not quite, not really down with the main Steel Army people, but kind of almost up near the top, right behind them. We have a little area. There's some regulars that have claimed the top row, the top right corner, if you're looking at it from the field.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely respect their space. They have claimed that, and they're always there before us anyway. But kind of right below there, it was um, a pretty good higher up view that I enjoy. So yeah, I'm usually up there, kind of um, not too cool for the Steel Army, you know, um, drummers and singers and things, but
For sure.
up a little bit away.
Yeah. Listen, anytime I'm at a game, we're not front row Steel Army
Yeah,
either in the Paul Child section. We'll get about halfway up. Same sort of thing. We see where everybody's sort of set up shop, and we try to post up a little bit higher just so that we can
yeah,
see the field of play better. Well, welcome. We're really happy to have you here. We're interested to sort of get your thoughts and takes on some stuff. Especially, it sounds like you were at the game this weekend. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
So you'll be our firsthand report here on some of these things, whereas Kevin and I sort of
Okay.
have a 30,000 foot view. Kev, what's been new, man? You've been all over the place, going to concerts, getting sick.
I
How's
have
life?
been. Yeah, concerts and sick. That's the update. I guess there's a pretty wicked cough going around. Usually when I get sick, I get like nasal congestion, but this was pure cough. Yeah, it knocked me out for like a week. But in between that, yeah, I went to go see Andre 3000 in Atlanta plays flute, which was
How,
awesome.
I was gonna say, how is that?
Very weird, very odd. I'll never probably see a show again like it. Um, Also, my first show where they lock up your phones. That was
Oh,
a cool experience. You know, we sat in our seats about 20 minutes before the show starts, and you just look around, and everyone else just kind of has their hands in their lap, looking around because no one's looking at a phone. And it was just a weird kind of, it was a small little like community theater thing.
did you
But
did you feel compelled to like talk to people? Was it like you're not looking at a phone, I'm not looking at a phone, let's talk, or no?
Nah, maybe in the future, but I don't know. I was still kind of coming. I like hopped up on Dayquil. I
Ah,
was
okay.
like, I was just kind of there I was just kind of excited. So that was cool. And then yeah, we went to go see Olivia Rodrigo in Nashville, and that was you go from one end with like a small community theater, Andre 3000, weird experimental flute jazz stuff, to big arena tour where the Predators play of like poppy pop music and 30,000 people singing along the songs, and great show. And yeah, it was really good. Her band was great. She was great. Yeah, fun show. So
I had this conversation with my nieces once where I've tried to listen to Olivia Rodrigo and I just don't get it. And I said that to them and they were just like, ah,
bite your
because
tongue, Michael.
no, their reaction was that it's like it's songs as if written by a angsty teenage girl. So like even to a certain extent, there are times they don't get it, but they understand what it's about. And I'm just like, okay, like that's not my demographic, apparently.
I just
There's
think it's
some,
good songwriting and it's good poppy stuff. I'm not an angsty teenage girl either. I appreciate the lyrics. I think
I
it's
think
just,
you're trying to hold on to your youth, which is
I don't think that at all.
slowly seeping through your fingers.
Even in my youth, I wanted to be older. Like I've always
That's
wanted to
true.
be older.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess welcome back, we'll say,
Yeah.
since you have been away
Appropriate.
for a while.
Yeah.
Guys, there's a number of things to sort of talk through today. I think we'll start with the Hounds 2-0 loss to Orange County at Highmark. Sold out game, so it's always great to start. You never really know, mid March what the temperature is going to be like. How's it going to cooperate? It was St. Patrick's Day, so you had All Hounds Eve the day before, and then St. Patrick's Day parade. Then you had tailgate. So there was no guarantee that everyone was going to make it into the stadium. Still sold out, which is great. Yeah, I guess Eli, talk a little bit about. It sounded like, game aside, we'll get to the talking points of the game, but it sounded like the show that they put on around things at Highmark was like really good. Almost like next level type stuff. What did you sort of see there, and what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was definitely an upgraded sort of atmosphere, I think. Even just, they gave out the light up thunder sticks that um, people seem to be enjoying using, banging together and making noise with. But people seem to, gravitate to that. But then, they had a sort of not a presentation, but they brought out the player's shield before the game and had a little kind of recognition of that.
Yeah,
So
I saw
that
some
was
video of
nice.
like of Tuffy like holding it up, right? Was he the main
Yeah,
person?
I'm
Or
not
did they kind of pass
sure.
it around?
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
know.
My
I
my
think
only
they.
critique is like it's like, all right, Tuffy, you put up the money. You did, but you weren't. Come on.
Yeah,
Let Bob
yeah,
like do it. Or let Danny or someone. I don't know. Yeah.
yeah. I honestly don't remember if I saw him, and I saw pictures of it today.
Yeah.
Um, I think I saw Danny Griffin holding it. It was, yeah, I think like the players that they're still,
Still around, yeah.
enough that are around. They were all kind of gathered at midfield, so that was neat. I saw they had because they gave away also like a banner, the Players Shield banner.
Mm-hmm.
They had the actual full size banners up. There were 3 of them, which I thought was kind of cool. It was the Players Shield, the I guess the 2019 Eastern Conference regular season. And before that, I think it was from 2004, something, a newly made banner, but something that predated me, and I'll give it a better look later because I am interested in what that is too.
Yeah.
But I felt like definitely kind of building up sort of the feeling that sort of the history or the feeling, the sort of the context of the team, and just kind of like contributing to it. Like, I think a lot of you can always enjoy the superstars and other little side things too, but I think
Yeah.
for the diehard supporters, these were little touches that you would really appreciate, that really kind of make it feel a little more professional, a little more just referencing the history. There was a they mentioned the mural that was on the one
Yeah,
brick wall
I have a
outside of.
picture here that we can
Nice.
throw up on the screen. Yeah, the mural. I guess it was supposed to be like the big reveal was going to be at the game, but the Steel Army sort of got wind of it a little bit early and were teasing that it was coming. The mural looks fantastic. My first reaction, for those who can't see it or haven't seen it, it's basically a big Hounds logo in the middle. There's a train at the bottom, and then it's just sort of flanked all around it from different moments in history. It seems like most of the pictures are like recent history. You have the one picture of Kevin Kerr taking his shirt off from Miracle on the Mon. You have a really nice black and white picture of Gene Klein as like a tribute to him passing away. And then I think you have Bob in the lower left corner that's covered by the artist. What am I saying? The artist here. But otherwise, most of the other pictures are like Danny Griffin, Ordonez. You have Kenny. You have Dequa. You have Rovira. You have Mertz. It's all much more recent stuff, but the painting itself looks amazing. I think the team put up a video of like the actual artist doing it and like flicking paint on it to give it sort of a look. It's a nice touch. I dig it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I really like it. I mean, it's really well balanced. Tells some history. And I don't know. I didn't catch like on media reports or whatever where this is located.
It's right outside the pub, isn't it? Like as soon as you walk in, if you like make a left, it's right there on the brick wall.
Nice.
Yeah. Facing the pitch. So like I missed it when I came in, but from the supporters end, you could see it on the wall.
Yeah.
Just facing you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty neat.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff. And like I said, it seemed like all over social media, everyone was sort of raving about the event, not just like the game, but everything around it, which again, I think, that just sort of goes to the team, that goes to Jeff Garner, what he's been doing and helping everybody put together. There's definitely more of an emphasis on the events, not just the team on the field. So kudos to them.
I don't know if this falls in the spirit of what you're talking about here as like opening day being the event thing, but I don't know, watching it like from afar, I don't remember last season there being as many like in stadium I don't know what you would call it, like voiceover things, like it's your corner kick, and like at first time I heard that, I was like, really? And then by the end, I was like, okay, like it's corner kick. All right, let's do this. Like it felt odd at first, but it just felt like they were like, and like a yellow card goes up, and they start playing the Bad Boys music or whatever, and like things like that, where it just felt more like a spectacle or whatever.
Yeah, I think they'd been kind of adding to that here and there the last few years. They definitely did like the music and the little stoppages, especially on corner kicks last year for a bit. Basically, I think when they could line up a sponsor for something, but that was they got a sponsor for the River Balls. They showed a counter on the video board. That was, a fun little touch too. So
I feel like they should have just called the Mongols. Like, just do it. Like, come on. It's fine.
Yeah.
We stole it from them. They could steal it from us. Not a big deal.
We have to be independent, Michael. There can't be any ties.
You hear that? You hear that, Jeff? If you want to call the Mongols, just go for it. Like, we won't.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they're gonna really listen to us and think about this. Take anything we say with credence.
Yeah,
I think there was one moment where we had a real big chance that we kind of fluffed, and it went out for a corner. And immediately they're like, "All right, good." I'm like, "No, this isn't a happy moment. Like we just screwed up." And I was just like, I remember that felt a little weird, but yeah.
There's that balance, right? So like I think that we've talked about this before, where there's an education for the fans, where a lot of fans come just because it's a good time. Like they don't know the difference between a goal kick and a corner kick. Like they're just there to watch people kick a ball around the field, and I think that that's okay. But then there is that level of if you watch European games, they don't really have like announcers mid game or anything because the fans sort of fill that role. They know like a big block, you cheer for a big block. Like it's not a goal, but it's a big event in the game. They understand that. And so there's this weird, we live in this like weird middle ground of like, you kind of want to just let people show up and enjoy it, but you also want them to become invested enough that maybe they wouldn't have to like always have the announcer come on and tell you this is a big moment. You just know it's a big moment. So the Steel Army knows when there's a big moment, but there's a lot of other people in the stands that don't. And so it's a weird line that they're trying to navigate. And then I don't think they're always going to get it right, but I don't think I can fault them for trying.
I generally agree. Yeah. There were moments just even listening and watching the game where I would hear like that kind of fanfare element across the stream and the broadcast. And I don't, it's weird, but I mean, like it woke up something in me where I remember going to like Penguins games.
I was going to say Penguin games. Yeah.
Yeah. It felt very Penguin gamey and how they like orchestrated the so, and I was like, okay, like I don't have a problem with this feeling. It feels good. And so yeah, it'll be interesting.
I mean, listen, if we're going to get to it here in a little bit, but if the hope is to eventually pack a 15,000 seat stadium, you got to be drawing in people any way you can. So I'm not entirely opposed to it. Guys, one other thing just to touch on, Eli, you brought this up earlier. Well, not earlier, but like earlier today when we were chatting via email. It seemed like there was a hydration break early in the game for those who were in the stands. And we just want to sort of clear something up. For those of us who were watching on the stream, they made it clear. OC has a player who is Muslim, and it is during Ramadan. And so basically he has to fast from basically sun up to sundown. And so basically, as soon as the sun went down, there was a stoppage in play so that the player could eat and drink, which fantastic. Like, yes, that's absolutely what you should be doing. At the moment, I was like, yeah, is this a hydration break? Like, it's kind of cold out. Like, what are we doing? And then once the announcers on TV mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, kudos. Like, absolutely, that's what we should be doing. But Eli, to your point, I guess there was an announcement in the stadium.
No, we did. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't hear it just looked like a normal stoppage. So yeah, that was neat to find out on. Yeah, I watched the game back bravely, but
that is brave.
yeah, it seemed like like we were all like, oh, it's cold. Are we just doing like when they had the scheduled hydration breaks, no matter what the temperature was or something? We were like, oh, okay, it was around kind of that 15-20 minute mark where they had it before. So but no, that that they didn't make a big deal about it in the stadium, but yeah, a nice thing. I was glad to actually find that information out after the fact.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess that's just a note because, like, I'm just assuming that Jeff is
Yeah.
watching now. But if that happens again, like, maybe make an announcement in the stadium as to why. And then fans, I'm sure would get behind that 100%. So, guys, we've spent like the first, where are we at here? Like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
And
bravo, Mike.
we haven't
to be
even
able to
talked
just
about the
avoid the
game.
game for 20 minutes.
Kev, I'm gonna throw to
Great
you.
job
The Hounds
putting it
lost.
off.
Yeah, right. The Hounds lost 2-0 to
Yeah.
OC. Let's spend at least a little bit of time talking about play on the field. Kev, give me something to talk about here. What did you see? Good, bad, otherwise? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think there was a lot of good moments. I think the core of this team, I think there's a lot to protect and try to build on. And then there's some screws that need to be tightened. I mean, so obviously, I mean, I think there was a couple moments of defensive. I don't really know what to call it. I mean, it's not the OC never really had extended periods of time where they were grinding us down and we were defending, backs against the wall for, 15 minutes at a time. I remember Lily teams in the past where we have done that and we had that tool in our toolbox. This was not one of those performances. It was counterattacks that, I mean, just looked cheap. I mean, it was cheap goals. I mean, the first goal, Etu should be tracking his man, but I really don't think it should have ever gotten there in the first place. The OC player, was able to put the cross in way too easy. Biasi, I understand this is a new role for him. His last season, he was more of a well-defined like left back winger, but in this new kind of defensive left center back and a back three role, it's a different roles and responsibilities. He needed to be a lot more switched on and like clear ball whenever it comes into box mode. He was too passive with it. I honestly thought Dick, our goalkeeper, could have maybe been a bit more aggressive too, coming out and claiming it, claiming the cross. So yeah, I mean, Etu's still at fault for not tracking his man, but I think it was a combination of floods and errors and across their whole defense. Same thing with the second goal that they scored. It was all too easy. And I mean, this is something maybe we can dive in a bit deeper. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on, but the whole with Griffin playing the Vonkie Azil role, the kind of, the quarterback middle and a central three defender thing. There's a lot that I like about it. The one critique is, okay, is he strong enough in the air? Can teams target him and go long and get a lot of joy out of it? I actually think he was okay in the air and won a decent amount of duels, but I think that the first goal, it wasn't, Griffin didn't go up for the header. I want to say the second goal maybe he did. I can't recall. But yeah, I don't know. To kind of wrap up my long monologue here. I mean, I think on paper doesn't look great. 2 losses. We haven't scored a goal. However, watching the games, I think there's a lot to, I think, be optimistic about. I'm generally happy with what we see this early in the season. So yeah, I'm not hitting any panic buttons yet.
For those of you who have your bingo cards, Kevin calling out a goalie, you can just go ahead and cross that off. We got it out early in the season.
They need to do better, Mike. They all need to do better.
Eli, what did you see? Give me something here that you were sort of walking away from the game thinking.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed in real time. Like that, upon watching the game back, I saw maybe more positives than I had picked up in person. But again, when you give up a goal in the third minute, that changes the that changes the game. And unfortunately for the Riverhounds, they're not a team that plays from behind very well, or haven't been over the last few years. They really like to kind of be in control and let teams come to them. And so, to have that goal come so early, to have that, I don't know if it was a little bit of misfortune. I guess we, broke it down quite a bit there. But, the way they played, it seemed like they, they would have had a chance. They Mertz hit a crossbar not too long after that, sometime in the first half. They did start to, OC probably let them have the ball a bit, but they did, create a little bit with it. Maybe not as much as, not as many like quality chances as you'd like to see, but, saw some good things. I think, Mertz definitely put in a shift, did a lot of work.
Yeah.
In the middle, was kind of making some things happen. I think DNA I was kind of down on him after the first game, and then we kind of had a counter that he was passive on, and we lost a chance by him kind of sending it over to the wing. And then, but then later on, he was a little more involved, and for a guy in his second, real game with a new team, I guess we can give him a little bit of leeway with that too. So I think he came into the game, which was, somewhat encouraging, at least not, we definitely want Sterling to come back or to be available soon, but it's not like, hopefully not going to be like we're hanging on by a thread, really needing this one guy back because we don't have anyone else for that spot. I think he did all right, I guess, all in all, like just from kind of some passiveness early on, he seemed to work through that. So I guess that's a positive.
Yeah. I mean, I think your point about, they did, I agree. I think there were moments where the team moved the ball really well. I think especially amongst the guys who have been here, there were a lot of like one touch, no look passes, which was great. But I think, Eli, to your point, when you give up a goal that early in the game, it felt like OC just said, okay, we're shut it down and they're going to bunker. And so they gave us a little bit more space to knock it around. And my big concern was always, are we going to be able to break it down in the final third and actually turn it into something? And I think that my biggest concern over these first two games is that all of our best chances are coming off of like corner kicks. Like we're not actually getting into scoring positions through the run of play. And yes, it's 2 games in, and typically it takes the offense a little bit longer to click. I get all of that. But we'll see. I think one of the other things that we were sort of chatting about in real time during the game was it feels like we have a lack of height up top. And if your primary mode of attack is to just go deep and let, Rovi and Etu just send balls into the box, not having bigger bodies up top is a bit of a detriment. Kev,
I will say, I agree. But at the same time, if you don't have a ton of height up top, what you need to do then is like flood the box with numbers.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were doing a pretty decent job of that. Like they're pretty regularly when crosses were coming in, there were three players of ours who were in genuine contention. And then we had some midfielders like sweeping up at the edge of the 18. So I agree with you that like, yeah, most of our chances came from getting it wide and crossing it in. But I don't know. It's
Kev, you had mentioned Griffin.
Yeah.
Reed McLaughlin just added in the comments, good point about Griffin, but I do feel it's a waste for him to play that position. The other center mids didn't inspire too much confidence. I wanted to talk about Griffin because I think that, and Kev, you touched on this a little bit. I think that if it works, it could work out really, really well. I think what I'm concerned about is I think my rationale, whether it's right or wrong, the way I'm sort of reading what Lily's trying to do here with Griffin is by having a ball playing center back, he is able to split the lines and start the attack quicker. And there was one or two times during the game where it happened. It didn't play out the way it did, but you have Griffin going directly to Mertz, who is like 2 or 3 lines ahead of him instead of going to Walty, who's right in front of them. And that way you can really sort of cut lines and make things happen. So that's great. My concern is that it feels like from just a pure defensive standpoint, it is a step backwards. Like he's still learning how to be a defender in a way that you kind of can't be. And I do think that at least the first goal he was liable for. Like there were multiple people, but he was definitely liable for the first goal. And what makes it even more interesting is when we're chasing the game late, what does Lily do? He moves Griffin further up the field to get him in the attack. So like it's clear that he's a valuable player. And so it's just, are we in a situation where maybe you have a center back that can play center back and then you try to get Griffin more involved up front? Or how long we have control over this? How long do you let this Griffin thing play out with him at center back? Like, I don't know, Eli, like if you were to put like a number of games on this before you're like, okay, like I've seen it enough, this isn't working. What number would that be for you?
Whew. I didn't love it in the first place, and it's always hard to figure that out with Bob. How much trust do you just have in him, and I ideally one more game, and maybe see or just change now. I don't love it, but I think when things aren't going great, that's just sort of the that kind of stands out as a really non-traditional type thing. That's going to be kind of the first thing people look to, which doesn't mean it's wrong.
Right.
I think, like you said, like issues in attack. I don't know. Maybe some of it has to do with Jackson Walty too. How much, clearly Bob likes something there. Haven't seen a ton yet, but if he gets integrated more into the attack, does this look different? I don't know. Yeah. I think, definitely would rather see more of a traditional looking center back. I did appreciate the comparison with Tommy V, who's probably one of my favorite Hounds ever. But I guess the only thing is Griffin is just shorter, I believe. I guess I didn't, I feel like Tommy V was more of like he was more of just like
he was
a
8
normal
foot tall,
size defender that could handle the ball. Yeah.
Entire pitch. Yeah. He was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess that my concern in this regard, and Kev, I'm interested in your thoughts on the number of games as well, but is that you can win games if you're leaking goals as long as you're scoring them on the other end. We're currently leaking goals and not scoring goals, and that's just a recipe to lose.
It's 2 games.
I know, but this is why we're here, right? So, like, I think that we could ride this out, and like 10 games from now, we look back and we're like, Bob was a genius. Like, it took a few games, but Danny got his feet under him. He is now like an all-world center back. Ordonez, who, like Danny Griffin's going to win Defender of the Year. Or we keep doing this, and you look at our next few opponents, Lou City, Tampa Bay, we realistically could be sitting on 4 losses to start the season. And then where are we? So, Kev, I'm curious, based on the competition, based on what we saw, yes, we want to let stuff play out. How much longer do you think it's okay to keep trying this?
I'm fine giving it more time. I don't know. I do wonder how much.
Even if we have 4 losses to start the season.
Sure.
Okay.
Because especially it's hard. Look, at the end of the day, results are what matter. And we lost this game 2-0. But it's hard for me to be extremely critical because I thought the performance was actually decent. I thought we played pretty well. So I don't know. I'm not really gonna I think the other thing is I don't know how much of my I'm sure I'm sure subconsciously it's having a big influence. But if Vonky Zeal never existed and we never had a 3 center back system with Vonky Zeal like splitting the middle and kind of being this incredible player, if Vonky Zeal never existed, I would probably have different feelings about Griffin playing there. But I think me having with the recent exposure and just loving Vonky Zeal in that position, I'm like, oh no, I could on paper I can totally see how Griffin can play that role. I think he has similar attributes. He has similar. I think to play that role, you need a lot of composure because you're going to be, trying to be the quarterback and starting, building play from the back, and you still need to be, calm under pressure. I think Danny can do that. He probably needs to learn his chops a little bit more in a purely defensive, position. I think it's interesting. I'm willing to let it play out, and I think it could work. The other thing is, I was wondering. I was like, okay, well, if you're making it this obvious, surely good teams in the future, if we continue with this, they're just going to stick a defender on Griffin and just kind of like, if
you mean a forward.
That's what I mean. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty clear that we want Griffin to start our attacks and to facilitate possession along the back line and to look to, break the lines and make key passes. So what do? You just, you have a striker kind of shadow him and force Biasi or Osamanu to do it for you. However, Biasi and Osamanu aren't, terrible at that either. So I think I like the idea of the 3 of them being back there. I mean, and I think that's also, I think Biasi's tall and he's left-footed, which is great for that spot, and he can make a pass. And so I get it. On paper, all of this makes sense, and I'm definitely not willing to kind of scrap it anytime soon. I saw one of the comments mentioning Hogan. I agree. I think Hogan's a good defender. I'm not necessarily saying put him where Griffin is because I think they're just 2 different players, and I think that role requires a different, kind of set of skills. Maybe Hogan throughout the season comes in for either Osamanu's or Biasi's position. I don't know. I'm excited by this. I'm eager to see where it goes.
Listen, Laura Ellen called out in the comments, what if Aston Villa never existed? Would Mike feel better about the Hounds? The reason why I'm sharing that comment is because I do think that soccer, football is headed in this direction. Like there's always like trends and stuff that happen. And then you start to see all these different teams. They'll all start playing a similar formation. They'll all try to find the same kind of player to fill a certain role because one team does it successfully. And I'm not giving Aston Villa tons of credit, but they brought in a player, Pau Torres, who is a defender, who is a left-footed defender, and his entire goal is he's not the best defender, but he makes these line-splitting passes to break the offense. And I've not seen that necessarily in the USL to a high degree. So if you get
hard.
I know. That's why like Danny is the guy to do it if Danny can be a solid defender as well. But I applaud that that's what Lily is trying to do. I think that every year he's doing something new that we didn't see before. And I think that the league isn't expecting. And I think this might be the thing. So now the question is just how long do
he
we
did
keep
it with Funky
trying?
Zeal.
I,
I really think this is almost a carbon copy of the Funky Zeal.
I don't think it is, because I think that Danny is a much better attacker than Von Kiesel is, and it's shown by the way that Bob pushes him up the field late in games. Well, he's still playing, isn't he? I think he is. I saw some team picked him up. Yeah, Hartford picked him up. So, yeah, we'll see him twice.
Anyway, well, when I think what Liz made a comment earlier in the comments about 70% possession, nearly 70% possession for us. I mean, I don't think that's if that's kind of a, I mean, I don't think any manager would say we're shooting for 70%. Like, I don't think any manager's trying to hit a number. But if you're going out in the game and saying, okay, we want to control the game, we want to control the ball, and we want to have the ball, and blah blah blah. I think that back five once again also makes a lot of sense. I think Rivera is comfortable on the ball, Etu is comfortable on the ball, and the whole back three is comfortable on the ball. So if you do want to control the game, those are the players it makes sense to me on paper. So yeah,
I think in that regard, then you need to find someone that can break down a compact defensive line. Because
I'm looking more at Forbes and Mertz for doing that, and both of them. I thought
Mertz had a good game. Like, I think he's starting the season out strong.
But I thought he was okay. I think my only problem with Mertz is I think we kind of need him to be the guy. I don't. Kizza doesn't have that pressure. Forbes. It's more of Forbes will do something great that no one else can do once every 3 games, and we'll love him for it, and it's great. But he's not going to be the guy week in, week out. I think we need Mertz to be the guy, and I think right now he's just not living up to that.
Ooh, that feels a little harsh.
Sorry.
Well, no, listen.
I think he's a good player. I agree. I don't think he had a bad game. He hit the bar. I thought he was busy in attack, but I think it's almost to no fault of his own. I think a lot of our success, especially in attack, is going to rely on him this year.
To your point a little bit, Kev, about Kenny, I don't know if you were here. I don't even know if we talked about this on air, but apparently at the kit review or the team reveal, Lily actually referred to Kenny as Coach Kenny. Like, he is now officially part of the coaching staff.
Wait, officially, or is that just like a nickname?
No. Like, it's like one eye on the field, one eye coaching kind of thing. So it's clearly he is not the guy, and Griffin is now the captain of the team, not Kenny.
Yeah.
So I do think there might be some pressure on Mertz, but I don't know. Eli, I mean, I thought that Mertz had a good game. I felt like Mertz was our best attacker, which, like, as a midfielder, it's like, okay. But Eli, you said that you thought Mertz had a good game. I mean, how do you feel about all of this?
My first question is, or my first thought is, does Mertz look better? Or does if the attack looks better with Griffin in midfield? Not to harp on that around everything, but does that help things? Does that free up Mertz to be the guy? Can kind of Mertz and Griffin do more as a duo in the midfield? I know, obviously Ketty is not really playing full 90s anymore, and there have been spells where he was pretty good as a super sub. So, my first thought is kind of just in that area of play. If we're struggling to generate attack, will that, make that happen? And, again, it depends on your level of urgency. So if you're like, you seem pretty calm about all this, so I get why it's not, you don't need to really make that change right now. But, I do wonder, do we need, it kind of makes me think, do we need another creator in the midfield to take some of that pressure off of Robbie Mertz? I think I know, because obviously he hit the crossbar, he had sort of a bicycle kick attempt that wasn't really much of anything. But I think he had another good chance at some point,
He set up some
maybe
good
right before
chances.
halftime.
He got he
Yeah,
got in
yeah,
some
that's it. Yeah,
dangerous positions and had some pretty good crosses in.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree.
Yeah, so-
I do think. Look, I'm not trying to sell short. I like Griffin would obviously have utility further up the field for sure. And yeah, I can see how. All right, maybe we sacrifice a little bit of that kind of quarterbacking possession facilitation by bringing in someone like Hogan, shore up the defense, and you're allowed to push Griffin up the field. It doesn't sound like the worst thing in the world. Like I'd be fine with that, but I don't know. I just think it's different. I mean, when Griffin came back at the like last season for the first couple games, he was like our best player, and he was like a shadow striker. He was kind of sitting behind Decoy or whatever. So I completely get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, this could go one of two ways, right? This could be you let it play out for 10 games and it looks like Lily is a genius. Or we could look back and be like, remember when Griffin was a center back? Do you remember how crazy that was? So, like, we're just going to have to give it time and let it play out and sort of see what happens.
I just think it'd be silly to not give it time. It's asking Griffin to do something he's never done before and to only have him succeed or fail based off of a very short time window, I think would be odd.
That's fair. One of the other things that I wanted to sort of call out from this game, and then we should probably move on because we're just going on and on, which is great. Nate Dragicic was announced this week as a signing for the team. Nate is the first official player to basically go through the entire academy rank system, sign for the team as a professional. Lily put him on the field at the end of the game. There were pictures. His family was there, all rocking the Dragicic jerseys, which was fantastic. Feels like a Merch Junior. For the few minutes that he was on, I thought he looked lively. I mean, there was a ball that came in that I don't think he was ready for, that he headed and he put it wide of the post, and you could tell he was frustrated. But I'm also like, dude, it's like your first game. That was asking a lot of you. But he tracked stuff down. He was active in the midfield. He didn't do anything to hurt the team. So I think it will be interesting to see, was that a one-off because Lily knew, like, okay, like, his family's here, let's get him out on the field, get him some minutes.
I don't think Lily would ever do that. I think Lily would only put him on the field if he thinks it's a legitimate thing. I don't think.
Okay, see, I don't entirely disagree with that, but I also do think that there are times that Lily's a bit of a softie, and he would do, like, he's like, we're down 2 goals. It's going to take a miracle to come back. Give the kid some minutes. And like, let's see how it goes. But who knows? I thought he looked good. I don't know.
I'll be honest.
Spot for him.
Yeah.
Without being just, he was able to kind of, now he's had his first chance in a pro game, in a USL game, that, now that's kind of, he's been there now. Within a 2-0 game, that's kind of a nice spot where the Hounds had nothing to lose, and they were able to get him, I think, a couple of chances. Definitely the header you talked about, Mike. So, I think if any, I don't know if it was developmental or, if Bob does have an eye toward doing that in the middle of a game. It does seem like he would not concede that at all until the final whistle, but it did seem kind of more worthwhile than maybe just sending out, I don't know who we had on the bench left at that point, but somebody that's been there, for the dying minutes of a 2-0 loss. That's a pretty good use of your minutes, and of of some. They clearly were happy to give us the ball in our attacking half and let us kind of try some things with him in there.
For sure.
It was a good atmosphere for him to come on too. I don't know. I'm always kind of split on the whole argument for, like, when you bring on young players. I don't know. I think one of the arguments, I don't know. This probably doesn't matter. I'm probably looking way too deep into this, and there's nothing there. But I've heard arguments in the past where it's like bringing on young players when you're losing. I don't know. It's like it gives them a taste of what losing is like, like in a bad way. Like, and it's better to like, no, like, all right, you're up 2-0. Like, go out there and feel what it takes like to win the game or be on the winning side of things, and to kind of cement that mentality in the players of, a winning mentality rather than like a losing mentality. But yeah.
I put Casey's comment up here from on YouTube. Casey said, "That's good stuff. If given the opportunity, Nate will be able to give some solid minutes this season, in my opinion." We got to take Casey's opinion seriously, because he was the one that, before Mertz was even a thing, he was like, "Hey, there's this guy Mertz that's coming through the system. He's going to be amazing. Just like hold on." So like Casey knows his stuff. We need to get Casey back on the show. It's been a few years. Casey has seen, Nate and sort of has a sense of what to expect there. So if Casey says it's good, I think we should just sort of buckle up, because I think there could be some good stuff coming from this kid. Guys, anything else from this game that you think we should discuss before we move on here to just a few other topics?
Are we ever going to score?
No,
I'm saying that's the easy thing to say. No, I actually think we created a decent number of chances. I think we were a little unlucky not to score this game, but we'll see.
Okay. One thing I noted as I was going back through the roster, we've talked a lot about Sterling. Sterling's still not here. We know that there's some bouncing back and forth. Hopefully he'll be available for the game in Lynn Family this weekend. But as Liz and Laura Ellen were sort of discussing in chat, we also don't want to put all of our eggs in one player's basket. So, let's keep an eye out there. One other player that we haven't really heard or seen anything from is Aiden O'Toole, who is the team's number 10. So you would kind of expect, if they're giving him the 10, that there's a lot expected of him as well. And there's no picture for him. There's no news about him. So we always said, for years, we used to try to do like a deep dive on all of these players that are announced in the preseason. And then we realized a bunch of them just don't end up showing up. And so maybe Aiden O'Toole is one of those players that like you hear a little bit about, but then is not around. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with both of them.
Did anyone have the 10 last year?
Kenny was 11. Who had the 10 last year?
It might have been no one.
Mertz was 12.
No. Harmon. Was 12. It was a defender.
It was.
Was it?
It was DZ Harmon. Yes.
DZ Harmon. Right. Yeah. So.
I was expecting big things from Harmon. Was the one that
expecting big things from Mike. So you just expect whoever's 8, whoever's 9, whoever's 7.
No. I'm forgetting who he reminded me of him, but I saw him play in the preseason, and there were like flashes of like an actual number 10. And then when he came on, Lily was playing him as like a wing back. And
yeah, it sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, I guess as we keep saying, it's early, but we're fans. We're going to dissect everything, and we'll sort of see what happens. And the team is going to look very different, 5-6 games from now, as they do thus far. The other big news, guys, that came out, and it's kind of big news. It's not really big news. But a number of outlets in Pittsburgh all covered it, was the fact that it's now official. The Hounds are looking to expand Highmark Stadium to 15,000 seats over the next 4 years. And I think part of this came out because Tuffy applied for a $10 million grant from the city to start getting some of this stuff in play. And so they had to disclose sort of the phases that are going to be part of this. And then once it hit the news, it was literally everywhere. Like I had family members that were all texting me different articles, and they were all saying the same thing. But I was like, thanks for paying attention, guys. I appreciate it. The way that this looks like it's going to break down, according to the team, is that phase 1 is going to be a rooftop terrace, additional suite seating, improvements to the locker room, the event center, and group event areas. So there'll be a little bit more seating, but not really. The next phase is 1,200 seats added, and the corporate spaces are expanded. And then the biggie is 8,300 seats added in a new press box as part of phase 3. And this is all supposed to happen over the next 4 years. So if you think about it, like we're probably talking phase 1 this offseason-ish, phase 2, and then phase 3. Kev, I know you've been a big proponent of like grow slowly. Once you get to 75% capacity, maybe you add another 25%. 15,000, I was like, why 15,000? Like, why does that number ring a bell? 15,000 is the minimum requirement for a D1 soccer team. So if I'm not saying that the Hounds have aspirations for MLS, it gets asked all the time, and the team is very cagey about just chill. Like, we're happy where we are. It's okay. But clearly things are pointed in a certain direction, and 15,000 would be the minimum to get us there. Eli, you're at all of the games. What are your thoughts on, Highmark basically tripling in capacity?
That would certainly be interesting. I'm interested to see how they plan to do that. I think also just following USL, there were a lot of kind of stadium renderings and things are fairly infamous. So I'm sure they're kind of looking big right now, and then we'll see what actually happens. Is probably I don't know if it'll be a scaled back version of that, or or if does like the capacity part. The other idea is hopefully kind of given some of the silliness going on around the Open Cup and things, just to be in position if USL can get Division 1 sanctioning in some way at some point.
There was something. Who was it? I think it was Lexi Lawless, which you either love him or hate him. Yeah. But he basically said, given the state of USSF, if they're just going to let MLS do whatever they want, USL should just declare that they're a D1 league now. And is USSF going to say, no, you're not? Like, what are they going to do? But who knows? Yeah. I don't know. Kev, what are your thoughts on a 15,000 seat stadium over the next 5 or 4 years?
It does feel like a lot. When I think about stadium expansion and kind of all that stuff, I guess I didn't have more than a double in my head. But I understand the reasons for shooting for that number. My only thing is, the Hounds will have a heck of a lot better guessing on what they believe the kind of natural capacity of the team is right now. So let's play the thought experiment, and let's say every single person who wants to come to the game can sit in the stadium. What's that number? I don't think it's 15,000 right now, which, I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. No, I feel pretty confident that it's not. And the way all of this is news to me. So I knew about it, but like the details of it with like the phased rollout and the number of years and all that kind of stuff is new. So I don't know if they have this in mind of like, okay, well, if you do it in a phased way, then we can kind of slowly keep matching capacity and kind of grow this, I don't know, feeling collectively together as a club. Yeah, I mean, so I don't know. What I never want to be in the situation of is you start to feel kind of a shell of a stadium because you're at 60% capacity every home game. I don't think that's good for anyone. So, I mean, I think the front office has a job on their hands, not only to kind of manage the stadium expansion, which will be difficult in its own right, but to manage the growth of the club and growth of the fan base. It's exciting. I'm really happy it's going through. We'll see what happens.
And listen, just for comparison's sakes, our friends over in Louisville, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong here because I can see you're listening, but it looks like Lynn Family Stadium has a capacity of a little less than 12,000. So we like to look at Lynn Family Stadium as like this jewel of the USL, and it is. It's an amazing stadium. Kudos to them for putting it together. But we're talking 4,000 beyond that. And I think there's a lot to this that isn't just about the Hounds. I think they're talking about using it for other events, for concerts. And I think that you can obviously bring in more people for bigger events like that. But obviously, the primary host is going to be the Hounds. And I do, we've talked about this ad nauseum. I do think that there's a women's team in our future. And so, like, you're also setting yourself up for that. But, Kev, to your point, you don't want to be getting, just 10,000 people in a 15,000 seat stadium. Like, you want to keep that atmosphere, that noise, that feeling of just like, we keep going back to the Columbus game last year. You want that every game, and you're not going to get that if you're looking around and a third of the stadium's empty.
The home opener was a great spectacle to watch on TV. I mean, it felt like there was a lot of energy in the crowd. I mean, it was good to see that many people and the stadium that full. No, I always remember watching years ago. I don't know if this is the case anymore because I haven't watched Italian soccer games in a long time. But I remember watching some Italian soccer games. Like every time I'd watch, it's like I see empty seats everywhere. And then I switch over to the Premier League and it's packed. And I'm like, I don't even care about the quality on the field. Like that's a better product for me to kind of fall into naturally, so without even thinking. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something there. But.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to sort of see how this all plays out. Obviously, this is not going to be the last that we talk about this. There is the whole conversation of just like how. And I know, like, we all have thoughts. There's all sorts of people are saying put stands over the rail tracks. That's not going to happen. Like, but do you go over the road? I don't know. Do you want to be sitting as like there's a train rolling under you, like spewing, fumes and stuff? That's not a great experience.
Mike, I think if
you're walking the view of the city, they're not going to do that. That's not going to happen.
That's true. Well, maybe. Depending on how you build it.
And then you won't have any more Mongols. Like, they're not going to let that happen either.
Oh, yeah. No, never.
Back me up. No more Mongols.
No,
so
they got to ensure that, Mike. No, they're not going to sacrifice
not us.
that.
I'm saying balls in the river.
No, I know. Come on. They would totally put seats. They'd sacrifice. Oh, sorry. A ball can't go in the river? Okay.
Well, if it was possible, you could get a barge and put seats. You couldn't see it. Never mind. Okay, I'm going to stop. Any other final thoughts, guys, on the stadium expansion at this point?
The Gateway Clipper. Yeah, they'll just rent out the Gateway Clipper and park it on the river.
That's how you get a couple thousand more real quick. Yeah.
Yeah. I assume it's better to ask for more in the first place, maybe. So it seems like, maybe 15,000 is still unlikely. You definitely don't want to overexpand. So, I am not an expert at grant writing, but I wonder if that's something like that is the case, that's why that number was thrown out, so that he has sort of the option.
I like your approach to this, Eli. I think that I'm just sort of taking 15 and going 15, and you're like, just pump the brakes. It's going to end up being 12. We'll actually wait and see what gets built when it's all said and done. And I think that's spot on. So good call, guys. The aforementioned Louisville is our next target. It's hard to say target when we haven't scored yet, but we're going to be heading to Lid Family Stadium to face Louisville Saturday at 4 p.m. I don't know. It feels like there's a lot more. Well, we've already had 2 4 p.m.-ish games. I feel like they're typically later. But anyway, Louisville just had their first game. They beat El Paso 1-0. So good on them. They had a bye the first week. So did Tampa. So not a real good chance to get a read on them. We did beat Louisville in the preseason, but again, that's preseason. So you can't put a ton of stock in it. But if you're looking for, what billboard, it's not billboard material. What do they call it? It's
bulletin board.
Bulletin board. There it is. Thank you. Then maybe you have that. What do we think about this one? If you're Lily, we just lost 2 games, 1 away, 1 home. Are you going in and saying, don't you dare let in a goal? Are you saying we got to go get 3 points to make up for this? Eli, what's your thoughts on this one? How do you think this shakes out?
I mean, it's also, I think it's still just the third game of the season, and you play it like you would the third game of the season. I think, if Bob thinks, Griffin can play center back, you play him at center back. and not, you don't want to make any, rash decisions too early. So I think you kind of play it straight up. The pessimist in me says I'm sure Ordonez and Tola aren't gonna, do anything to really frustrate me, and that'll probably just be like worst case scenario, just Tola goal somewhere in there, and Ordonez with the key clearance at center back, and just kind of taunting us down there with all of our kind of early season angst. So, but yeah, I mean, I think as much as Bob is probably as upset as anybody, I also think he's pragmatic enough to not press the panic button and really try and do anything crazy. Now, we're going to have to score some goals at some point, so hopefully something different, but
yeah, that's fair. Kev, what are your thoughts on this one?
I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, I keep building the way you want to build. I think it's way too early to I don't know. I always think that Lily tries to take the first like set of 10 games to try to build a way of playing and to build a club that will kind of sustain good performances over the course of an entire season. And I think it's way too early to start being situational with how you approach certain games or whatever. So I wouldn't want to see us roll out a very particular situation for just Louisville away. I kind of want to see us continue this. Like, I don't know. I think we could be at risk at making this too much of a thing of like calling it like a Griffin experiment, like doing this whole, I don't know, center back possession style kind of thing.
This is what we do, Kev.
I know.
How else are we supposed to talk about a 2-0 loss?
Come on, there's tons of friggin' content. So yeah, no, I mean, I don't feel super optimistic about the game, but yeah, we'll see.
I will say that I feel like it was at Lynn. Well, we've had some moments at Lynn Family Stadium. Their opening of the stadium, the Hounds were there and they beat them. I think Robbie Mertz scored in that one. Lynn Family, I believe, was also the scene of Tommy V being moved to left back. Maybe I think that he was like playing midfield and then he moved to left back, and then like later that season he moved to center back. So all sorts of crazy stuff happens at Lynn Family. I'm game for it. I agree with you. I don't think it's time to push the panic button yet. In a future episode, we will talk about like when is it time to push the panic button, because you can only dig a hole so deep that you're able to then climb out of. But Kev, I think to your point, Lily does have a tendency of saying the first X number of games are just thrown away, because if you get hot late in the season, that's all that matters. You get into the playoffs and then you make a run, which we are so good at doing. Let's do a score prediction here real quick. Eli, what's your score prediction here?
I'm gonna say let's go 1-1 draw. We finally get on the board.
Kev?
I was gonna say 1-1, but because I don't want to copy you, I'm gonna say 1-0 loss.
See, we're always so hesitant to actually call a loss here. I think
showing me he's not going to score. Now you can take this clip and play it next week when he does, but he's not going to score.
I think it might be a 1-0 loss, but I'm going to say 0-0. I think to right the ship, let's just like stop leaking goals, figure that. If we're able to shut it down, not let any goals, I'm going to call that a small victory. And you take that and you build from there. You got to start from somewhere. You either got to stop leaking goals or you got to score a bunch of goals. I don't see us scoring a bunch of goals in Louisville with Ordonez there. So I'll take the 0-0 and I'll be happy about it. Guys, after Louisville, we do have Tampa at home, and then we travel away to Rhode Island. So it does not get any easier after this week. So we won't get into it tonight because we're over time here. But yeah, we could realistically be looking at a pretty big hole here after a few games.
It's okay.
So
Sorry.
I love how whenever I'm the pessimist, Kev, you always play the like it's cool. And there were years where you were just the pessimist and I was the it's cool. So yeah. That's what we think. Let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're probably right.
Okay. All right. Well, Gentlemen, anything else for this episode?
I think we've about covered the delightful start here. I don't know. About it.
Well put, Eli. Well, thank you everyone for listening and watching. All of you who left comments, we really appreciate it. Be part of the conversation in the future. If you're interested in watching, just head over to YouTube. You can subscribe to us there at Mongols. You'll get alerts and notifications as soon as we're ready to go live. You could jump in. There's a whole lot of chatter that's going on that doesn't make it into the show. Lots of back and forth. People like talking. So please come join us. We said we wanted this to be a bit of a water cooler. It's finally 9 years later becoming that, which is awesome. But we are also on Twitter. We're also over on Threads at Mongols in both places. Yeah, let's see if the team can go and get a result this weekend. And I'm sure that we will be back to talk about it next week. But until then, thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.